وصحبه أجمعين. We're going to continue inshallah studying the Al-Muqaddimah Al-Ajurroomiyyah, written by Ibn Ajurroom rahimahullah, and is the most basic text in Arabic grammar, and it goes through Arabic grammar in a very systematic manner, and it kind of covers the same concept multiple times in different ways, so that inshallah the basics are clear to you. And I will add to that some commentary, and I'll add to that some examples to make it inshallah more practical and more beneficial. Now, what we talked about last time, or what we went through last time, where basically what was happening was Ibn Ajurroom was explaining to us how is it that we know or identify a noun, how do we identify a verb, how we identify a harf, which is would you say pronoun? So I was given preposition. Is it not a preposition?
Preposition. Preposition is like fi, ala, ila.
What is a pronoun? Yeah, so it's a preposition then. Yeah, pronoun is a dhamir. Yeah, so we'll come to that. I'm sorry, I'm a bit weak with the grammar translation in English, so you're going to have to help me out with that a bit. So it explained to us how we identify the three main components of making any sentence in Arabic. Now the sixth page in the second half of the text, and in the first half of the text we're going to start Bab al-I'rab. The first word should be al-I'rab. I'll just look for the page number for you. Yeah, so page 3 on your text, the word Bab al-I'rab, the chapter of grammatical analysis. All right. So al-I'rabu. So this is the definition. Al-I'rab. What is I'rab in Arabic? And I'll explain to you in a second. Inshallah, I'll give you some examples. هو تغيير أواخر الكلمة لاختلاف العوامل الداخلة عليها لفظا أو تقديرا. The grammatical analysis is the changing of vowel markings at the end of words according to the addition of specific helping words or prepositions, whether they are written or supposed. Now, of course, that made almost no sense to any of you, so I'll explain to you what I'rab means. So when we say I'rab, what we're saying is that a word can exist in within different capacities in a sentence. It can exist differently. It's not always going to be the exact same thing. You can move it around. You can play around with it a bit. It can have different meanings based on where it is within a sentence. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And other words in Arabic can't. Other words in Arabic don't have that luxury, meaning what they are is what they are. Nothing can change that for them. They don't have the ability to morph or to be affected by anything else in the sentence. So some words can be affected by other things within the sentence. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair, barakallah fiik. And other words in Arabic do not. So if you were to take words, just generally speaking, just any word, we have two types of words. We have something called mabni, and we have something called mu'rab. We have two things, mabni and mu'rab. What we're studying right now, if you look at the word, babul i'rab, right? The grammatical analysis, which is mu'rab, meaning something that can be affected by different elements of the sentence. So it can be morphed and changed, its position will change, and then how it's going to be seen is going to be changed. So I'm going to give you simple examples here. طيب. الطالب درس. So the word al-talib means the student, and darasa means studied. So here, there's a dhamma on it. علمت الطالبة. I taught the student, right? استمعت إلى الطالب. So what happened here? What happened was that the same word, see exactly the same word, here, here, and then here again. But you see at the end of it, things changed. In the first example, it had a dhamma, Second example, al-fatha. Third example, al-kasra. Because it is a mu'rab word. It's a word that can be affected by its placement within the sentence and with other elements that are in with it in the sentence. So it can be affected, and thus it's going to look and sound differently. So at-talibu, at-taliba, at-talibi. So three different things can affect, three different situation statuses for it, because it can be affected. It's a word that is mu'rab. And then there are other words that are mabni. So like the word udrus. Tanjah. So udrus is a command, study. Now in Arabic, the word udrus is a mabni word, meaning it's built on a certain concept and it cannot be changed. It will not be affected by anything else that comes to it. It may look different. You can do things to make it look different, but what it is will always stay the same. It will always be a command. It will never be anything else. Here, this is a mubtada. It's the beginning of a sentence. Here, it is a object, a maf'ul bihi, right? Something. Here, it is a usm majroor or makhfud, because there's a harf before it. So what this word is within the sentence is changing based on where it exists in the sentence and the different things that are affecting it in the sentence. However, this one here, no matter what you do to it, and you can do a lot of things. You can say فَلْتَدْرُسْ. So you can add.
How do you know when that happens for which word?
Udrusi. You can say udrusu. So it looks differently, but all of them are commands. That's all they are. And it's mabni, meaning the concept of it is not going to change. It's not as far when you're identifying it grammatically, when you're analyzing it grammatically, you will always say the same thing about these words. Maybe take out this one just so I don't confuse anyone. Yes, what was your question?
Or all af'al?
No, not all af'al. So I'm not right now. I'm not categorizing for you what the words that are mabni are, or the words that are mu'rab are. I'm just giving you an example to understand what mu'rab and mabni means. But we will go through a bit more detail. Yes. It could be mabni on anything. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be sukoon. It could be mabni on anything. But the idea is. See, it could be mabni on different things. Even the same word. See, here it's mabni on sukoon. Here it's mabni on a kasra. Here it's mabni on a dhamma. But why is it mabni? Because it's not changing. The word is the same. It is a verb that is commanding. It's a commanding verb. It will never be anything else. However, this over here will be. This is a beginning of the sentence mubtada. It's an object. It's a usm majroor. It's different things within the sentence. It serves different purposes within the sentence based on where it exists and what affects it. However, this one here, no matter what happens, no matter how you change the way it looks, it will always be a commanding verb. That's all it will ever be. Are you understanding the difference here between... Now, not all af'al are mabni, and not all nouns are mu'rab. You're going to find differences as we go along, but I need you to understand the basic concept. When we talk about i'rab, we're saying words have the flexibility and fluidity to exist in a sentence on different terms and in different ways. Meaning it can mean different things in a sentence. It will be identified grammatically differently. You will not say, this is the same word, but when I identify it grammatically, this is the beginning of a sentence. It's the noun at the beginning of a sentence. It's a mubtada. And here it is an object. They're not the same thing. But here, no matter what I do, fi'l amr, fi'l amr, fi'l amr. Commanding verb, so it's mabni. Yes?
Mabni would be a verb. What? Mabni would be always a verb.
Not always. So that's what I'm saying. Right now I'm not categorizing. I'm not saying these are everything that's mabni. I'm not saying nouns are mu'rab and verbs are mabni. I'm just giving you an example. Now, we are going to categorize, the text will categorize for us what is mabni and what is mu'rab as we move forward, but I just need to understand the basic concept. Mabni means that it may look differently, but it always fulfills the same purpose within the sentence. Nothing can change that for it. Mu'rab means it can serve different purposes within the sentence, and that based on where it exists and what affects it within that sentence. You want to say something? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so like for the mu'rab, like whenever you're changing the last harakah, you're changing from the subject to the object.
Yeah.
In the case of the mabni, it's no matter what you do to it, it's still going to be a command.
Exactly.
It's only just for commands or for something else as well?
No, this is for other things. So again, I'm not counting everything that's mabni and mu'rab right now, which we will do inshallah, but I just need you to understand the basic concept of what that means. So if we look at the definition one more time, al-i'rabu, grammatical analysis, or what I explained to you being the flexibility of a word within a sentence. هو تغيير is changing أواخر الكلم, the endings of words, لاختلاف العوامل الداخلة عليها, because of the different elements that affect it within a sentence, لفظا, whether it's literally, whether it's verbal, أو تقديرا, or if it's proposed. Meaning sometimes you have to assume something is being said even though it's not written there. So in Arabic, I'll give you an example. When I say, where's the, there was a thing for me to wipe the board. Khalid, take a look. I think it's inside the cabinet. So when I say darasa, this is a full sentence in Arabic. It's a full sentence. He studied. Who studied? He. Who's he? I don't know, but he studied. So darasa means that someone studied. Where is, so darasa is study in the past tense. Now where is the guy who did it? It's not written there. It is muqaddar, it's assumed, right? It's something that's not written specifically. In English, you couldn't say played, studied, without, that wouldn't be enough. You would need to say he studied. You have to put it in. In Arabic, it can be assumed. It doesn't have to be written. Sometimes things won't be written. So that's called taqdeer. Right? Now, what was the translation? What's the last word in the definition? What's the translation? What's the proper one? Taqdeer is what? Supposed. So you assume it or you suppose it. I think probably assumed is better, but supposed is fine as well. Are you understanding what does that make sense generally speaking? Or did I lose you at some point? All right. So that the definition of mu'rab, which is the flexibility of a word within a sentence, within any given sentence, is based on the fact that the ending of that word can be changed, right, based on where it exists and different elements coming and affecting it, whether it's verbal or supposed or assumed. So it can be changed, it can be manipulated. So here, for example, here at the beginning of the sentence, it has a certain form. And then in the middle of a sentence, when there's a verb and a subject before it, we end up with a different ending as a fatha. And then here, because it's there's before is a preposition, then it has a different ending. So it changes, and then its grammatical status changes. Okay. So that's mu'rab and mabni. What we're studying right now is not mabni. We're going to study mu'rab. We're going to study words that can change and have the flexibility of having different functions within the sentence. They can be affected by the different elements. We're not going to study the mabni first. We're going to start with the mu'rab because they're more flexible and they're more important, and it's the vast majority of words in Arabic. So most words in Arabic are mu'rab. Now example of mabni, see this? From a conceptual point of view, ila is mabni. Never changes. It is what it is. No matter where you put it, it's always going to look like that. It's always going to sound like that. It's always going to do the same thing. Nothing changes this. So it's not a mu'rab, right? This one, of course, is different. So وَأَقْسَامُهُ أَرْبَعَةٌ, and it has 4 different types. رَفْعٌ, now this is a bit philosophical. So أقسام الإعراب. The different types of i'rab, we have 4 things. رفع ونصب وخفض وجزم. نصب, خفض or jar. Whenever you see the word خفض, I'll use the word jar because it's the same thing. Like I said, the different scholars of Basra and Kufa differ on the matter a bit, but jar is equivalent to khafd, the same thing. Now, what we know commonly for the concept of rafa' is the dhamma. That's what we commonly know as something that's marfu'a, that has a dhamma on it. And commonly for nasb, we know that there's a fatha. And commonly for jar, we know there's a kasra. Commonly for jazm, we know there's a sukoon. right? For sukoon, let's give an example of that here. Just udrus. We'll put it over here, right? This is what is commonly. You didn't find it, huh? Okay, khair, inshallah. This is what is known commonly for these four things. But what are they exactly in Arabic? So they're based on level of, they're based on status of importance. So the most important word in a sentence is going to be given rafa'. A less important word, a less high ranked word is going to be given nasb. The least important word is going to be given jar or khafd. Because khafd means low, rafa' means high. Nasb is in between. So from a philosophical point of view, Arabs did it like that. So a subject, someone who's doing something, is going to be given rafa' because he's the center of the story, because he's doing it. Now whoever is getting that thing done to them, figuratively speaking, or whatever is going to get nasb, because it's also a very important part of the sentence, but it's not actually doing it, it's happening to them. And then an additional part of the sentence will be given jar because it's not as important. And then jazm is a different concept that only exists in verbs. It's a different concept that only exists in verbs, and it works for, and it has certain, when we come to it, I'll explain it in a bit more detail. So I'm going to give you an example of, let's take this off. Or actually we can just use this for a second, then I'll give another example so it makes sense. So, الطالب درس, the student studied. Now who's the one who's doing the job? Talib. So he is the center of this story, and he's the one who's actually performing this action, so he's going to get rafa', right? Because he's the mubtada. Now, I taught the student, allamtu taliba, I taught the student. So I'm the one who did it, so I'm the one who's going to have rafa', and then the person who learned from me, he's important in this story, but he's not the most important thing, so he's going to get a fatha. Istama'tu is enough. It's a complete sentence. I listened. That's a complete sentence. It makes sense. We don't need any more. But I'm going to have an additional part just to clarify it more. So since I don't really need it and I'm just adding it out, it's going to have a kasra. This is a rule with a lot of exceptions. I just need you to understand the basic way of looking at it. Now, what are the different signs of rafa'? What's the sign that you know? Dhamma. Is that the only sign? No. No, there's a lot of signs. What is the sign that you know for fatha, for nasb? Yeah, well, you know. What's the known sign for jar? Kasra. Is it the only sign? Not at all. You're going to find that sometimes al-kasra is going to be the sign of nasb, and sometimes the fatha is going to be a sign of jar. So the concepts are separate. The signs will overcross a lot. So what I will teach you, and what the Matn is going to teach us, is how is it that works. So he gives us all the examples. Here are the situations, here are the different signs for rafa', and here how they exist. Here are the different signs for nasb, and here's how they exist. Here are the different signs for jar, and here how they exist. Here are the different signs for jazm, and here how they exist. Now these are the things you will want to try to memorize. This will help you out a lot because it'll give you a big difference. Have you ever read in the Quran, خلق السماوات? Actually, why don't I just get rid of, oh, this is good. We're done with this. I'm pretty sure you've read this in the Quran at one point or the other. So someone give me the tashkeel for this. Tashkeel, when I say tashkeel, that means when we add in all the harakat. The fatha, the dhamma, the kasra, that's tashkeel. So give me the tashkeel for this. 3 fatha. Samawati wal arda. So why is it like that? Even though the waw adds one thing to the other. When you add one thing to the other, the rule is they all have to have the exact same status of i'rab. So if the first one is marfu', then what's added to it is marfu', and what added to it is marfu', going on and on and on, right? So why does this have kasra and this have fatha? So both of them Both of these things, both of them, are mansoob. Mansoob means that they have nasab. Both of them do. But the evidence or the sign of nasab for ard is a fatha, and the sign for nasab for samawat is a kasra. Why? Because they're different types of words, which I will explain to you. Are you understanding? This is just a very common example that students who memorize the Quran make all the time, because you'll find إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين, all the same. They sound exactly the same. You find exactly the same. عسى ربه إن طلقكن أن يبدله أزواجا خيرا منكن مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات تائبات. You find the exact same thing when they're being descriptive, or you're doing additions, you're adding something. What does and mean? What is and in English called? What is it called? A junction. So a conjunction. So a conjunction does what? What does it do within?
Two things together could be and.
Yeah, so when you pair two things together in Arabic, they have to have the exact same i'rab status. If the first one is marfu', has rafi', then everything after is going to have rafi' as well, like it. So here, both of these things are mansoob, because khalaqa, he created, is a verb, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the subject, so he is marfu', and then the object is samawat wal ard are going to be mansoob. But this one, the word ard here, gets its nasab. Its sign of nasab is going to be a fatha, and the word samawat, its sign of nasab is going to be a kasra. Why? That's what we're going to inshallah explain. جمع مؤنث سالم, جمع مؤنث سالم, because that's mufradat. But even in mufrad, you have to specify more. So there's more specifications as you go along. The specification becomes bigger. But I just need to, what I want you to understand are the concepts. What's important to me now is just understand this concept, that there are 4 statuses when it comes to i'rab that words will exist in. They work, this is the highest down to the lowest, right? That doesn't mean that the word is unimportant, but it's just, generally, it's just in this sentence, it's not a word that is the most important word. So the most important word in the sentence is going to have a dhamma, and the less important word is going to have a fatha, or the word that is not affected is going to have the dhamma, and the word that is being affected by something else is going to have a fatha, and the word that is unneeded in the sentence is going to have a kasra. Or, if I want to be more accurate, the word that is the main part of the sentence or unaffected is going to be marfu', and the word that is affected or is not the main part of the sentence, or the secondary part of the sentence, is going to be mansoob, and the word that is not needed in the sentence, you can live without it, is going to be majroor or majzoom. Does that make sense? So this is how, and then jazm of course is a whole different concept that we'll talk about in verbs specifically when we come to. Did I succeed in explaining these concepts? It's a philosophical one. So you have to understand what I mean, so that later on I can explain it and you feel, okay, this is going to work for me. Yes?
You said the khalaqa is mansoob, everything is mansoob after that, or is the khalaqa mansoob? So that means everything after the mansoob?
No, nothing to do with that at all. Khalaqa is a verb. It's a past tense verb. Now, and the subject is Allah, who's not, it's assumed here, supposed. It's not written there. You just know that He did it. And the objects are the skies and the earth, the samawat wal ard. Objects in Arabic sentences are mansoob, because they're not the ones who are actually doing it. It's happening to them. So they are important, but they are affected, so they're mansoob. Right? So, how do we know that what are the different signs of nasab? An example of it is, here it's a fatha, but here it is not. Here's a kasra. So kasra, dhamma, fatha don't mean jar, nasab, rafa'. They don't. They're most commonly the evidence of each other, very commonly, but they don't mean the same meaning. This is a philosophical meaning. This is a status. This word is marfu'. Now, how do I know it's marfu'? There's different ways to tell that. There's different signs. A very common sign is a dhamma. I'm not saying that the dhamma is not a common sign. It's the most common sign, but it's not the only one. This word is mansoob. Most commonly, it'll have a fatha, but not necessarily. This word is majroor. Most commonly, it's going to have a kasra, but not necessarily. This word is majzoom. Most commonly, it's going to have a sukoon on it, but not all the time. So these are statuses of words that have the flexibility to exist in a sentence on in different manners or on different levels. They're statuses. And then that status will be explained through different signs. Some of those signs are going to be these fathat and kasrat and dhammat, and some of them will be other things as well. Yes?
So what about the other letters in the word? So samawat, like it could be sumawat or suma.
So that's the ability to actually read a word properly, meaning knowing how the word is pronounced. Now, pronunciation of words, studying how to derive. That's why at the end of each halaqah, inshallah, I'll take a word and I'll do derivatives for you to help you out with deriving. It's a language at the end. It's very mathematical, like it's very philosophical in its basis, but it's still a language, meaning it's you have to be someone who listens to it and then understands how the words work. But how you're supposed to read it, it is depending on understanding how to derive words. So be a bit patient as we move forward. We will come by that. All right. So let's continue reciting so أقسامه أربعة. There are four types of statuses of i'rab. رفع ونصب وخفض وجزم. That's why I couldn't explain to you what خفض means. خفض is just a status. It's referred to. خفض means low. نصب means midway. It's رفع means very high, right? It's statuses of words in a sentence. That's all it is, right? And then they are the signs of these statuses are established in different manners, right? فَلِلْأَسْمَاءِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And for nouns, what nouns get from these statuses are three things. So nouns that are mu'rab, that have the ability to be flexible in a sentence, get three statuses. A noun, al-ism, so I'm putting al-ism here, and I put al-fi'l here. Verb, noun. Al-ism gets rafa', gets nasb, and gets jar. All right? A noun can be in the status of rafa', like the example I gave you, we had a dhamma on it. Or it can be in the status of nasb, it can have a fatha on it, or other signs. Or it can be the status of jar, and it can have a kasra or a different sign on it. Right? It cannot be majzoom. There is no noun in the Arabic. If you read it, al-raf'u wal-nasbu wal-khafdu wala jazma fiha. And there is no jazm in a noun. There is no noun that's place is silented, or jazm is to silence, or to quiet it, or to take it away, or to be neutral, meaning it doesn't have any of these statuses. You see, these are high, medium, low, basically in statuses. This, no status, neutral, no status applied, right? A noun always has one of them, does not have jazm. You'll never see a usm that is majzoom. Right, okay. الفعل وللأفعال من ذلك, and what verbs take from that. الرفع والنصب والجزم ولا خفض فيها. الفعل will get jazm, we'll get nasb, and we'll get rafa'. There's no jar for a verb. Why? Jar, as I told you, is going to be the status of words that aren't necessarily important for the sentence. The sentence could survive without them. Are you understanding? I need you to think about this. You have to just if you turn your wheels on a bit, you'll understand this. Will make things way clearer for you. Jar is a status of words in a sentence that the sentence could survive without. Like the sentence will still be a full sentence without having it. A verb by concept is a sentence in its own. It is a sentence. A verb will always bring a sentence. Let me give you an example. Think of a verb right now. Give me any verb. Any Arabic verb you can think of. Ya'kulu. Is that a full sentence in Arabic? It is. It's a full sentence. You don't need anything else. It's a sentence. Why? He's eating. Where is he? Muqaddar. It's supposed. You don't need to write it. If you want to, you can write ya'kulu huwa. It's not a crime. Of course, it sounds really weird in Arabic, but yeah, you can do it. It's not a problem. You can add the person's name at the end. But if you choose not to put anything at all and just write the word ya'kul, this is a full sentence on its own. Let's say akala. He ate. Full sentence. Eat kul. Full sentence. Verbs on their own, with the help of nothing else, are full sentences. So they can't be seen as something unneeded in a sentence because they are a sentence in itself. So they can never be majroor. They can never be majroor. They can be majzoom, neutral, right? Because and that happens when you're giving a command. When you're giving the command, what is a command? Is it a sentence? Is it not? They differ on how to see it. because it's not really giving information, it's giving a command. So a command is a command. So they have different ways that the nuha of looking at it. So it's majzoom. It'll be marfu', it'll be mansub. It could rafi' for a verb. Rafi' would mean that it is unaffected, and nasab means that it is affected. Right? Rafi' and nasab will also be based on the tense of the on the verb. A verb in one tense will be marfu', in another tense it will be mansub or mabni ala nasab. You'll find differences. What I need to understand is just the basic idea is that nouns will be subjected to the status of rafi', nasab and jar. Sometimes a noun will be the most important thing in the sentence, unaffected by anything. Sometimes it will be less important in the sentence, still plays a main role, but it's affected in the sentence. Or it could be something that is not needed in the sentence. The sentence could survive without it. So it could be rafi', nasab, jar. But it cannot be neutral. It cannot have jazm. It has to have one of those three things: either main role, subject, non-affected, secondary role or affected, or completely unnecessary. For af'al, completely unnecessary does not exist. It is either very important or unaffected in a sentence, or based on a certain tense, or it has a different tense, or it's affected, or it's neutral. One of those three things. Did I make some sense? I gave you examples saying that any verb on its own is a sentence. So it cannot be majroor, because how are you going to be unnecessary for a sentence if you are a sentence? That's a that's a problem. That's a paradox in its own sense. All right. So we're still in the philosophies of the basic understandings of Arabic. But now you understand something. You know what marfu' means, what mansub means, what majroor means, what majzoom means. Don't you? I hope you do. If not, repeat this again. Listen to it again later until you understand it. There's 4 different statuses of words that are mu'rab, that have the flexibility of being affected by their position in a sentence. There are other words that we talked about at the beginning, mabni, that are not affected, with their status in the sentence. They are what they are. A command verb is going to be a commanding verb. Makes no difference where you shove it, what you put before it, what you put after it. It is what it is. But other words will be affected based on where they exist and what is around them. Now, if you can be affected by what's around you, then you have 4 things to be. You can be marfu', mansub, majroor, majzoom. You can be the main character of the sentence or the unaffected part of the sentence. You can be the secondary character of the sentence or an affected part of the sentence. Unaffected, not unaffected, an affected part of the sentence. Or you can be an unnecessary part of the sentence like majroor, or you can be a neutral part of the sentence, majzoom. Okay, that's the last time I'll repeat them, but inshallah that made some sense. Now I can actually start doing something that's beneficial. We can start going into learning how that all works, because now I understand the different statuses of words and how they can exist in a sentence differently. Now in English, what's the difference? So I listened to the student. استمعت إلى الطالب. I just did that in a second. Just a second ago I used the same example, right? In English, it's meanings that will base our understanding of what is the subject, what is the where the verb is, if there's an unnecessary or additional part of the sentence, if there's an object or preposition. It's just based on meaning. In Arabic, there are codes. There's a coding to it, meaning there's going to be something that will tell us what this word is, because sometimes you can mix things around. Sometimes in Arabic you can mix the sequence. How will I know what you mean unless you give me a code of what you're talking about? I'm going to give you an example of that. Again, I'm just trying to explain to you why these things matter. So I'm going to write down an ayah that you guys all know, and I'll give you an example of how if you mix things up, you can end up actually ruining things completely. There's a lot of examples in the Quran. I'm going to give one that I like specifically. إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. So, who is the subject here and who is the object? Indeed, right? Or exclusively. So the word إنما, exclusive. I'm going to just translate this. Yani word for yakhsha, revere. I think that way, or there's an A somewhere, I don't know. Allah, of course, the name of Allah. Min ibadihi, from His servants, scholars or scientists. So now put it together in English. So who's revering here?
Put it like that, you see revering scholar.
Based on what?
In order for it to be not filled with shirk.
In order for us not to leave Islam today, this would have to be that way, right? It would have to be that way. But let's say that we didn't understand it like that. That's why, of course, I use this example because it's obvious. But how else would you know? Maybe the Quran, because the Quran teaches you what's shirk and what's not. So the Quran, if it's telling you that Allah reveres certain people, then that's what the Quran is telling you, right? You can't question the Quran. So how do you know that who's the subject here and who's the object? In English, it's based on sequence. In Arabic, it is not. In Arabic, it is based on signs and markers on the word. Yes, Khalid. No, there's a marker on the word.
When the na should have a dhamma, is there?
Very good.
Yeah, and then is there giving the fear to Allah? And
Yeah.
the fatha should be
So this could mean exclusively Allah reveres from His servants the scholars, or it can mean exclusively the ones who revere Allah the most are scholars, right? So in their opposite meanings completely. Now that complete opposition of meaning is based on something very simple. Here there's a fatha, there's a dhamma. Now this dhamma is a sign of rafa'. That means these are the subject of they're the ones who are doing whatever this is. This is reverence, they're doing it. Who's receiving it? The one with the fatha. Right? So if this was written like that, differently, so if this was opposite, then like Emmanuel said, we would have, basically a shirky understanding. Because now we're saying that Allah reveres His scientists, and that, of course, that doesn't work. But the opposite, yes?
So how would the meaning change if you put min before Allah?
That's a whole different thing. Now you put a preposition before a noun. When you put a preposition before a noun, you change the place of Allah in the sentence. That's changing the whole sentence altogether. Okay, like that's completely changing everything in the sentence by putting it that way. Now, what did I tell you? When you see a preposition and something after it, these are additional parts of the sentence. So basically, this sentence could be easily understood by taking out this and this. Those are additional parts of the sentence. All you need for this sentence is 1, 2, 3. Those are additional parts. They're important parts. They offer depth of meaning that is needed linguistically and religiously to understand the text. But the basic meaning of the text, of the sentence, that's all you need. You just need those 3 words. So which one is the subject and which one is the object? We know it by what's at the end of it. Understanding the idea here? So if you were to change it, you can end up in a big problem. So it's al-ulama'u, Allah. So indeed, the ones whom revere Allah are the scholars. Listen to it in English. Listen to the difference in English. In English you can say, scholars revere Allah. Right? Or I can tell you, the ones whom revere Allah are the scholars. Now does that have a difference of meaning in English linguistically? It does. Even in English it has. Even in English, it means that the emphasis here is on the exclusivity of reverence, meaning, or the emphasis of reverence, meaning that people who actually do it properly, exclusively, on a higher level are scholars, when I say it in the second way. But if I say scholars revere Allah, that's just a very simple, normal, no emphasis based sentence in English. But when you do it differently, the ones who revere Allah are the scholars. It changes meaning, right? In Arabic, that is how Arabic works. That's the beauty of it. That once you slap the fatha here, you can put this word anywhere you want in the sentence. It'll still be the same thing, because that little code there will tell you that this is the object. Allah's name is the object here. He's the one receiving the reverence. So you can put it at the end, at the beginning, whatever you want to do. The word ulama can come up here, it can come here, it can come late. Doesn't make a difference. Changing its place will add depth to the sentence, or will change the sentence, or from a linguistic point of view, where the emphasis is. It is changing where the emphasis exists. Did I lose everyone? Well, if you could see what I'm seeing right now, you would stop. Yeah, the level of confusion on everyone's face is very All right, it's okay. It will make sense.
Just out of curiosity, so the reason behind it in this ayah specifically, why was
exclusivity. Actually, the first word in the sentence innama means exclusively. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about exclusivity, talking about the fact that the highest level of reverence, true reverence, deep reverence, actual reverence comes from the scholars.
Innama could have been still at the beginning of the sentence, and it would be innama yakhsha.
It would have been different. No, the focus would إنما يخشى الله إنما يخشى العلماء الله, right? The emphasis here is not going to be on scholars. The emphasis here is going to be on reverence, on the concept of reverence, of the strength of it. But if you want to emphasize scholarly behavior or science, or the importance of scientists, then you have to put some concept of exclusivity at the beginning, and then change places. When you change places, when you don't go with the normal sequence, which is verb, subject, object in Arabic language, how it works, then you are emphasizing something here, right? Something is being emphasized, and then it'll be clear from the context of what's being said. Of course, that's a whole different level of study. Yes.
This is something the Arabs already do naturally.
Yes, this is their language. It's how they speak. It works the same thing for you in English, meaning when you hear the two different ways I said the sentence, your brain comprehended what I said differently. It didn't comprehend it on the same way. You may not be able to articulate what the difference is, but you know there's a difference. When I say scholars revere Allah, when I say the ones who truly reveal Allah are scholars, it didn't come in the same place inside the brain. You understood it in different places. Now articulating it is basically what grammar is. What grammar is being able to think of a sentence and articulate what that sentence actually meant, and what those words carried, what weight those words carried within the sentence. And Arabs were very good at doing that in the Arabic language.
So is it not recommended to stop at the end and make it sukoon?
No, it's fine. It's fine because the fath has already been established, Allah, so it's known that the other one's going to be ulama'u. Yeah, so it's going to be fine. It's not going to be, there's no other way to understand it. So you'll be fine, inshallah. All right, and of course there's a lot of examples like that in the Quran. I just gave this one because it's a very common one, and people kind of ask about it quite often. All right, so babu ma'rifati alamat al-i'rab, the chapter of knowing the signs of i'rab, of flexibility within a sentence, or the different statuses that a word can carry in a sentence. Now I know the word i'rab, I'm explaining it in 5 or 6 words in English, but that's how you're supposed to understand it. I'rab means that this word can have different statuses within a sentence. It can exist in different manners, right? So how do we know alamat, the signs? What are the signs of the different statuses? What are the signs of rafa'? You're going to say dhamma. Yeah, that's one of them. That's one of them. It may be the most common, but it's just one. There's a lot of other ones that can exist almost on the same level, of commonality. What are the signs of nasb? You can say fatha, but there's a lot of other signs that sometimes even outrank it in how many times you find it in a sentence. What are the signs of jar? You'll say kasra, but there are a lot of other signs. What are the signs of jazm? You'll say sukoon, but there are many other. Right? So we start lil-raf'i. It's a very interesting way of studying Arabic grammar. Alajurroomiyyah, when he put it like this, he beat everyone to it. Meaning studying it is basically studying Arabic from the end backwards instead of front forward. So you say, okay, understand the statuses of words, and I want you to be able to identify the signs. When you identify the signs, now you're reading a sentence. You know, oh, based on this sign, this word is marfu', that must mean it's important, right? So even if you don't know exactly what it is, but you know that it's unaffected or it's important, this is majroor, this is makhfood here, it's majroor, based on the signs that I see, so it must be less important, and so on and so forth. And then you're capable of basically decoding or doing the encrypting of the Arabic sentence before you even understand the meanings of the words, which is a very important part. Subhanallah, we're running out of time. Subhanallah. All right. للرفع أربع علامات. There are 4 signs, the signs, or the markers if you want, of rafa'. Now why am I saying rafa'? Because it's a concept. It doesn't have just a simple meaning. It's a concept. It's being the main character of a sentence or the unaffected part of the sentence. I know I'm repeating it, I sound like a broken record, but I want you to memorize this stuff so that it sticks with you, inshallah. So what are the signs of a dhamma? So we'll read للرفع أربع علامات. There are 4 signs for rafa'. الضمة والواو والألف والنون. So the 4 signs are, number 1, الضمة, which is basically what you know to be the little waw on top of the end of the word. الضمة الواو, the letter waw existing at the end of the word sometimes. And I'm going to give you examples so you know exactly what we're talking about in a second. والألف, the letter alif sometimes will be the sign of rafa'. And ثبوت النون, the existence of the letter noon at the end of some words, will be examples or signs that this word is marfu'. Now, فأما الضمة, and that's what we start with. The Imam Alajurroomiyyah will start with explaining the different words that the dhamma is going to be its sign of rafa'. So there are a group of words. These words, the dhamma is the sign of rafa' for them. And then there'll be another group of words. These words, the waw at the end of them is going to be the sign of rafa'. Then there's another group of words that the alif at the end is going to be the sign of rafa'. And then there's another group of words that the existence of the noon at the end of the word is going to be the signs of rafa'. Yes?
Is rafa always subject?
Not always subject. It's either the main character of a sentence, as I said, the main character of a sentence, or the unaffected character of a sentence. So something that is main and also unaffected by anything else. So it's still pure, right? Nasb is the secondary main character of a sentence, or the affected character of a sentence. It means there's something that affected it, so it's no longer carrying, it's not independent, it's something affected it. Jar is the unnecessary part of a sentence. Jazm is a neutral part of the sentence. Does that make sense? These are like little categorizations I'm giving you philosophically. You may not find them elsewhere. So memorize them or write them down, yeah?
So for the waw, alif, and noon only at the end of the word?
Give me a second. So it's not just, it's close to the end. So in a second we'll make it clear.
So is the one under alif, is that saying like the one under alif, the one below, is it not saying?
Thubut an-noon, the existence of the noon, the letter noon at the end of a certain word. Now, what are those words? There are groups of words that we'll study. We'll start with al-dhamma, but there's really no time. We're going to make it for Adnan al-Maghrib, inshallah. Allahu Akbar. Is at the end, just before Maghrib, I'll give you like a word and give you some derivatives. So we'll start next time by talking about what are the group of words that sign of rafa' is a dhamma for, right? And then we'll study the rest of the words, inshallah. That'll be our beginning, inshallah, next week. Next week, I'm not here next week. We're taking some guys camping. So just next week we'll be off, inshallah, and then we'll be returning immediately, inshallah, the week after that. So I'm just not around on Friday next week, yes?
Oh, but Thursday?
Thursday I'll be here, inshallah. Just Friday next week. So this halaqah next week will be postponed to the week after, inshallah.
What about Thursday?
Thursday is okay. Is it Thursday?
Yeah, so the fiqh one will be fine on Thursday. So ba lam gha has a concept of arriving to something or to a destination, somewhere or something, right? That's the arrival. That's the idea of balagh. So balagha means someone arrived to a destination or arrived at a certain status. So it could be literal, it could be figurative. Baligh is usually word used for someone who achieved puberty. So he arrived at puberty. So that's why they use that word for this word. So the concept of arrival is still there, even though it's a very specific one. But you can use baligh for something else as well. هديا بالغ الكعبة, something that will arrive at the Kaaba or arrive to revere the Kaaba. So the word baligh is someone who arrived somewhere, very commonly used for someone who achieved puberty. Baligh is a description of something that has clear meaning the meaning arrived to your brain properly, understood it. You could understand it arrived, it made its destination, which is your comprehension, right? So I'm just giving you how it can be used differently, but the same core meaning is always going to be there as you move forward. And that's how Arabic is easy. Balagh is an announcement. Why? Because the words that were announced arrived at everyone's ears and everyone was able to hear it. Balagha is the science of linguistics, because the science of understanding how words are supposed to arrive to people's comprehensions, right? That's how you understand balagha. And the word balagha, fa'ala, is used to make a science out of a word. If a word can be attributed to a science, then you will use fa'ala in that concept, balagha, milaha, and so on and so forth. Yablughu, someone arrives or someone's arriving something or achieving something in the form of arrival. So why do I do this? I give you derivatives. You can write them down, you can make notes of these derivatives, hold on to them, and then later on you'll find, oh, so this is how Arabic works in general. This is how you can take one 3-letter based word and then derive from it many understandings. Inshallah, we'll stop with that. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Barakallahu feekum.